it's just a huge honor today to be podcast interviewing Jordon Comstock from Sarah Springs, Utah, which is about 30 minutes south of Salt Lake and about 45 minutes north of Provo, which is really becoming the gosh darn Silicon Valley of dentistry. I mean, there are so many high-tech dental companies in that area. Is that not right?
Yeah, they call it Silicon Slopes is what they're calling it here now.
Silicon Slope.
Yep, that's what they're calling it.
Slope being the slope of the ski mountains.
Yep, that's what it's from. Yep, so that's what they're calling it.
Oh my gosh! I mean, probably the top 10 hottest companies are out there. So Jordon is a tech entrepreneur and has been in dentistry for over 10 years. He started his career managing and growing Salt Lake Dental Lab with his dad, grandpa, and twin brother. Is it identical twin or
identical twin? He looks just like me, so I could be him. God. You never know.
During his time at the lab, he was involved in the Crown and Bridge department, and then later moved to the sales and marketing department. Jordon studied web development and marketing at the Art Institute of Salt Lake City. He is now the founder and CEO of BoomCloud.com. Well, it's BoomCloud.
Yeah,
but the website is BoomCloudApps.com.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And as a co-host on the Navigating Dental Insurance podcast, Say No to PPOs, he's got over 30 episodes on this Navigating Dental Insurance podcast. Who's your co-host?
It's Ben Tuane. He's a specialist when it comes to negotiating insurance fees and things like that. So, yeah, we talk about a combination of insurance efficiencies and then how to reduce dependence on dental insurance and create a fee for service practice. So it's a fun podcast.
Well, if you want to have him come on, we could do a sub podcast him and then publish it one after the other, kind of like a Batman and Robin back to back.
We've had a lot of people do that, like Gary Takis and a few other podcasters that have got us on back to back. So yeah, I'll do an email intro for you.
Yeah, you have been featured on many other podcasts: Dentistry IQ, Dentistry Today. You said Gary Takis, the Thriving Dentist Show.
Yep.
He started the company because he was working with so many dentists who were struggling with insurance and wanted to help dentists thrive. BoomCloud exists to help dentists reduce their dependence on dental insurance and help practices create, organize, and automate an in-house membership program and generate recurring revenue. He's got free resources. If you go to free dental membership ebook is on boomcloudsapps.com/book. Text BoomCloud to 33222 and get access to Jordon and his team's schedule to book a live demo of BoomCloud. So that's if you're driving right now. You can't do it. But when you get to work, you text BoomCloud to 33222. Now, see, it's 2 3s and 3 2s.
I know, it's confusing.
You should have done 3 3s and 2 2s, but that's just my.
I wish I could have picked it, but they just generated it for me. So.
Okay.
and then BoomCloud is one word, so just so you know.
BoomCloud is one word.
Yeah, when they text it. Yep.
So he's got a free webinar course with Dr. Chris Phelps and Jordon Comstock. Now, Chris is he puts his podcast on Dentaltown too.
Yeah, Chris has been on your show, and then I know he puts a lot of stuff on Dentaltown. He's pretty active.
Yeah, you know what? The Dentaltown app is where people are finding all these podcasts. We got 39 podcasts. You know, a lot of these people that have dental podcasts, they post them on iTunes, but a lot of dentists, they find them first on their Dentaltown app while they're driving to work. They go to the podcast site. There's 39 different dentists. I hope you put yours up there too, because it's an amazing deal. So you talk about that you're passionate about creating systems and processes using software technology and excited to help dentists reduce their dependence on dental insurance.
Yep.
I want to start this with we're really in a bizarre state of affairs. Next week we have 6,000 dental students graduating. So I graduated 30 years ago, and when we came out of school, these insurance companies were indemnity, and they were paying $1,000 for a root canal and $1,000 for a crown. And the number one expense in dental offices was labor 28%, lab 10, supply 6. Now, 30 years later, the number one overhead doesn't even show up on your statement of income or your P&L. It's the adjusted production. You charge $1,000 for the crown, but the PPO only gives you $600. And now the average dental office's number one overhead is a 42% adjusted production from what you your fee is to what you did it for, and then labor still 28, lab still 10, supply still 6, and so the margins are shrinking. I mean, when I got to school, average
Absolutely.
overhead was 50%. Now average overhead, according to the ADA, is 65%, and
Wow.
20% of the dentists have overheads of over 80%, and that is all because
Oh my
of
goodness.
the fee. I mean, the staff. I mean, inflation drives up all your costs. I mean, every time the
Oh
Earth
yeah.
goes around the sun, the employees want to raise every year. Everything gets more expensive every year, but your fee starts getting lower, and so you're passionate about this.
Yeah.
What is your advice on PPOs, and especially aimed at these young kids coming out of school?
Yeah. I mean, my advice on PPOs is I mean, ever since, so I grew up in dentistry, right? My dad owned the dental lab growing up. My mom is an office manager. So growing up, I've always heard about dental insurance and how big of a challenge it is for dentists. You know, even at a young age, I remember my mom, she worked at home, and I remember her just being so frustrated coming out of her home office, like yelling and just pissed off, right? And we would say, "Mom, what's the matter?" And she's like, "It's those damn insurance companies," right? So it's always been an issue. But my advice, I guess, with PPOs is obviously get educated on what their agreements are with the practice. Understand those agreements, and then if you're going to sign up with a PPO, and then really know your numbers. Make sure, because a lot of the times a PPO, like you said, that it's expensive, right? Because you're having to reduce a lot of your fees, which in turn, it pretty much is it's if you were to do your own marketing, it would be cheaper versus going through a PPO. So just know your numbers, know what you're getting into, and if you are wanting to do a fee for service practice, have a strategy. Don't just go into it. Or if you're existing practice with a lot of PPOs, just don't quit all your PPOs all at once. That's kind of dangerous. But
Well,
be strategic.
when you ask a dentist to spend 5% of their revenue on marketing, they say no. And then you mail them a PPO contract that says do your dentistry 40% off,
40%.
and they read it without signing. When you say know your numbers,
Yeah.
because of a company right up the street from you in Provo called Dentrix, which in their
Yeah.
infinite wisdom decided not to have any accounting package on it. You say know your numbers. How could a dentist? I mean, I'm telling you, 30 years in this game, walk in any dental office in America, and when the hygienist walks their patient out, say, "Hey, you were just in there for an hour and you did a cleaning exam of bite wings. What did it cost? What did you bill for that? What did you collect, and what did it cost you?"
Cost.
Well, there's not one person in a solo practicing office that could tell you that number. There's not one.
Yeah.
Every corporate could tell you. I mean, Stephen
Oh yeah,
Thorne at
totally. Yeah.
Pacific could tell you. Rick Workman at Heartland would tell you. But there's no
Absolutely.
individuals that could tell you. So how is this person supposed to know their numbers
Yeah.
when there's no accounting package in their practice management information system?
Yeah. Well, I'll throw a plug in for you familiar with Dental Intel here in Utah? I believe they are on your. That's a great platform to really understand your numbers and get all the data you need. They pull from the practice management software, and it's a wonderful software out there. And I've seen it a few times, and it's pretty robust when it comes to educating the doctor on knowing their numbers.
So wouldn't it be nice if and then you're back to the PPO contracts, okay?
Yeah.
I would say that for every dentist who reads the PPO insurance contract before he signs it, 2 unicorns are killed by a tooth fairy. And
that makes sense. Yeah,
they don't read any of their contracts ever. They don't. They're too busy studying the 8th generation bonding agent and trying to find the best composite that doesn't wear down when none of their composites wear down and none of their fillings fall out. So so on these PPO contracts, do you help coach them? I mean, what are you doing? If my homies went to I'm going to pull up your site now. If they went to BoomCloudApps.com, what are they going to find?
Yeah, so
BoomCloud.
Yeah, so we're a software company that helps practices create a in-house membership program, which is an alternative to dental insurance. I know Dr. Phelps, I'll throw another plug for him. He was on your show talking about membership programs, I don't know how long ago. But basically, it's a way where patients can come in and pay a monthly or yearly fee to the practice to get access to certain benefits and discounts to the practice, and that practice only. Right. So what we do is we help practices organize that through our software program. We automate payments. We track benefits. We have agreements for the practice and the patient, that are streamlined and digitally signed through our software. So we don't handle any of the insurance end with a practice. Obviously, I encourage practices to know their numbers and know their those agreements that we talked about with PPOs. And there's a lot of companies that do that, whether it's an attorney or even a dental consultant that understands those PPO contracts. But yeah, we're mainly a software company that helps practices create the in-house membership programs.
Now you have
reducing.
on BoomCloud. Just
Yeah, BoomCloud apps. Yeah.
Apps. APPS. So BoomCloud, one word, apps. You have a what we do in under 1 minute. Do you have that on YouTube? Because the video on your website, it's not a YouTube video. Do you have it on YouTube?
It's on Vimeo, I believe.
Right.
I think we do have a YouTube channel. I could upload.
You can send. I like those. You got two videos. If you send those to Ryan, we can put these at the end of the podcast because we put this on Facebook and YouTube, and you really did a nice job explaining under 1 minute. I want to read what you say underneath it. What we do in under 1 minute. 55% of Americans don't have dental insurance. Why compete for the same patients as the dentist down the street when you could tap into a market and cut out insurance companies from decreasing the value of your services and cutting your profits? With the help of BoomCloud, you now have the opportunity to create an in-house membership program for your patients with no waiting periods. Using our software to organize and create plans, add members to those plans, track benefits, automate payments, and analyze reports, your practice can now build recurring revenue, which increases the value of a practice and allows you to truly care for your patients. And that is pretty interesting because what a PPO is, technically, it's a volume discount. So when you go out and spend 5% on advertising on Google placement, Google ads, Facebook ads, direct mail, billboards, the best marketing, I still think, without a doubt, is location. I mean, you've never
absolutely.
You've never seen anyone need an address in a MapQuest to find a McDonald's, a Circle K, and an In-N-Out Burger. I'm right at the corner of 48th Street in Elliott in a building that would be the size of a McDonald's or Burger King. It's a 4,000 square foot building.
Awesome.
And the 30 years I've been here, anytime I'm meeting someone and they'll say, "Where's your practice?" I'll say, "Well, you know where Safeway is, 48th and Elliott? You know where Chase Bank is? I'm the building next to it." And they always say, "Oh yeah, oh okay, I know exactly where that is." But it's interesting how they'll give up 40% of their money for a volume discount for 45% of America, and basically they're doing dentistry for nothing and their chicks are free. But they won't spend 5% going after the other 55% that don't have insurance or create a membership plan. So how long have you been doing this?
I started consulting practices when I was at the lab, actually, because some of our local practices here, when I was doing marketing and sales for the lab, I noticed that most of our client base were always complaining about dental insurance. And I'm like, man, there's got to be a better way. And one day I was just walking around talking to practices, going into each location. And I noticed that one practice had a membership program, and it intrigued me because I just got done reading one of my favorite books called Automatic Customer that explains the how to create recurring revenue in any business. And I recommend anyone to read that book. It's a fantastic book. And I was intrigued, so I started asking the office manager, I'm like, how is this working for your practice? And, that's kind of how I got started learning about what membership programs were. And then I started consulting on the side when I was working at the lab, helping practices set these programs up. And then we eventually created a software. And that all happened in 2013 is when I started doing that.
And how's it going?
It's going really well. Yeah, we're growing pretty quick across the nation, and then we are actually in a lot of English-speaking countries now, which has been something that I never thought would happen. I always thought we would just stay in the United States, so that's kind of been fun to see.
Wow, and then your partner is now you're the founder and CEO of BoomCloud, but your co-host on your podcast is Ben Tooney.
Ben Tooney, yeah.
Tooney. And he's with what, Veritas Dental Resources?
Yep, that's his company. So we own two separate companies.
Does he still live in Phoenix?
No, he used to live in Phoenix for a while. He actually lives here now. He lives 5 minutes from me in Lehigh, if you know where that's at.
I do. Why did he move from Phoenix to Utah? Was it love or money?
You know what? I've never asked him that. I know he has some family here in Utah. He actually went to college in Arizona, but I think I don't know if it was too hot because Phoenix gets too hot. I have family there, and we go there every once in a while, and I feel like I'm melting in my car when I'm driving around town.
Yeah, it's incredibly hot. So where's your family? Down here in Mesa, Gilbert? Where do they live?
So it's my wife's side, I think in Mesa, and then one of them is actually a dentist. There's a couple of dentists over there. We're Scottsdale.
So you're a half owner of Veritas too?
No. So we're separate entities. I just own BoomCloud, and I have a founding team and everything here at BoomCloud.
Yeah. So you've been doing it for 3 years, you say?
Since 2013 is when we started, yeah. And then
so this is your fourth year.
Yeah, the fourth year doing it. We've launched the software. We started developing it in 2013, but obviously we didn't launch it until I think 2 years ago, and we've been doing it ever since.
So what's your pitch to these guys? You're talking to a bunch of people. What how's it going for? How many people have you started this for?
Yeah, so we actually, I was just looking at a dashboard just barely with our user base, and we have over 300 users and growing, and it's growing every day, which is awesome to see as a founder and CEO of a company. And so go ahead.
And these 300 users, are they happy? Are they glad you did it? What percent are fans? Yeah. What percent have fallen off?
Yeah, so we've only had like 5 to 6 cancellations of our software, which obviously excites me. It's been very, very fun to create and help the industry. You know, that's definitely the most rewarding part of it. But yeah, we've got a lot of fans, a lot of practices using this software and practices that are very successful with it. You know, last month we had a practice sign up, and I was just looking in their account, and within a month they had signed up almost 150 patients to their program. So I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. In 1 month, that's pretty impressive what we've seen out there, you know. And then we got stories like Dr. Phelps, and in 1 year he signed up 1,000 patients to his membership program, paying I think $300 a year. So yeah, we're seeing lots of success, and we're actually just getting ready to release a big update that helps practice measure more numbers with their program and do detailed reports in our software. So it's just been a fun ride, and it's just so awesome to see the results and what we're doing for practices.
So if I'm driving to work right now, because that's what podcasters do, we do an hour-long show because that's their commute. So she's driving to work right now, and first thing she's saying, okay, this sounds cool, but how does this get started? How does this get implemented? I mean, do you actually come to the office? Because if you don't have your team on board, especially the front desk, the hygienist,
absolutely.
I mean, you got to get the whole team on board. So how do you go from, I want to look into this, BoomCloudApps.com. I want to look into starting a dental membership program, but how do you go from A to Z?
Absolutely. So we provide lots of resources on our website. We've got webinars. We've got an ebook. Actually, I've got a printed copy right here. That they can read and get familiar with the concept, and we do share best practices in that. We have a webinar for office managers because we understand that a lot of the times office managers will find us and want to know like their roles in it. So we've got a lot of resources there. But really, any practice, if they wanted to get started today, they can go to our website, click sign up, and start to register for the software. And then what happens after that is they'll get a welcome email from us, and then we will schedule a live training with their office and show them the software. Or if they are wanting to just see the software, we do live demos as well. They can, right from our website, they can click the button that says schedule a demo, and we can get on there. They can get on our schedule, and we can show them a live demo of our software and show them how it works for their practice. But if they sign up, they can click that button, register for the software. We do the training, and then we've got support in the software. So if they have continued support or questions, they get help along the way. So
I go to BoomCloudApps.com. I see you have two webinars. One is Grow Your Membership Program with BoomCloud
Yep.
and Dr. Phelps.
Yep.
The other is In-House Membership Programs 101. Now, in order to see them, you got to type in your first name, your last name, your email. So
Yep.
you want to capture your email database.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's what we use that for.
And do you think that information barrier to entry to your information? Do you think it's worth it? I mean,
Oh yeah,
how many people would not leave their first name, last name, and email? Do you think? But they might have watched the video, the course.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. We've got thousands of people that have watched those webinars. So as far as I can tell, it doesn't hinder any people signing up. And obviously, you know, if they wanted to, we do have some free resources like our podcast. We don't capture email or contact information for that, we have a lot of resources there.
So how long is the Grow Your Membership Program with BoomCloud and Dr. Phelps?
It's an hour-long webinar with Dr. Phelps.
And where's he practice?
Dr. Phelps is in North Carolina, and I actually met him by reading an article online, and we were talking about the same topic. So we went and I contacted him there. And
what's his first name?
Dr. Christopher Phelps, yeah.
Christopher Phelps? And there's another Phelps in Dallas, the real estate Phelps.
Maybe, I have no idea.
Who's the real estate Phelps? Yeah, I think I got 2 podcasts with Phelps.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I know.
It's so tough with dentists because there's 2 million dentists and so many of them on their website. They never put the country they're in. So you got to drop their address in MapQuest, find out, okay, not everyone knows that Sequoia Street is in Sweden. And a lot of people, dentists, they use their first name and last name, and I don't think they've even Googled themselves. I mean, you'll go to Google and you'll type in Joe Smith DDS, and like 12 people come up in 6 different countries. It's an amazing world that internet is. Do you think that what is your thoughts of just PPOs at large?
My thoughts, I think they're toxic, to be honest with you, you know, at large. I mean, obviously there's probably some good ones out there, but you know, I'm more on the fee for service mindset of a practice. So, you know, and
explain to a kid who just walked out of dental school. She's 25. What do you mean a fee for service practice versus a PPO fee?
Yeah, so fee for service is you're not contracted with any PPO insurance companies. So a lot of their patients are cash paying patients. And so that's kind of what I like a lot. I think it's kind of ridiculous if I were to partner up with a company and they said, well, if you partner up with us, then you're discounting your prices at 40%. You know, I don't like that model, and I'd like to have control over my pricing fees, you know, so that fee for service is essentially you're in control of your pricing and you have a lot of cash paying patients.
You know what my takeaway was from coming back from Singapore, which is one of the richest countries in the world. The Singaporean dentist, you know, incredibly brilliant. And they looked at the American model and they say, you guys have all this overhead, and you have 2 girls up front, 2 assistants, and 2 hygienists, and then you sign up for all these PPOs at 40% off, and you're just running wild for 40 hours a week, and all you're really doing is creating jobs. And then you go to the Singaporean dentist, and they have 1 chair, and their phone is their iPhone, and their fees, they're all, you know, their fees are, you know, 50% margin. And instead of checking 2 hygienists cleaning 8 people age 16 a day and doing all these checks and running around wild, they just slow down and say, I'm just going to do nothing but net. And it's amazing how the 70s, when insurance came out, the first practice management company out there was Quest, going around telling everybody, well, you can't work in 1 chair. You got to ramp up to 6 chairs. And you ramped up these big overhead machines. Yeah. Now with all this high labor, high cost, high everything, high exposure lawyers, now it starts looking like maybe, I mean, these dentists don't realize that as many as 40% of all their patients they may be losing money on. And they don't know that because Dentrix up the street from you never hooked into QuickBooks Online, which they still need to just go back and do. They could fix that. They
totally should do that. Well, I mean, our software connects to QuickBooks Online. It's not that hard to do, to be honest.
I know, and if I had any hair left, I'd rip it out. I don't know what to do. Because,
well, I'll do it for you.
Because it has to be connected to the schedule, because that's the cost. In dentistry, you sell time, but you bill out by these units and procedures. So this dentist, if they had a PPO, they entered, okay, the PPO fee is $150 for an MOD. Well, then the schedule knows how long you take to do an MOD. And then it divides all your cost by operatory hour, and it says, Doc, you sign up for this PPO, you're going to lose $20 on every one. So then you have two choices. Lower your cost of your MOD, lower the cost by either doing it faster, or maybe switching to amalgam or whatever. But you got to lower your costs. The only secret to lower price is lower costs. But it's no secret. What dentists do, they just lower their prices. They don't even know their cost. No,
and it's dangerous when you get to that point. If you don't know your costs, then you're screwed. If you lower your price and you're losing more money,
what percent of the dentists that you deal with know their cost?
A very small percentage, and that's why we always talk about dental intel. I couldn't give you a number right off the bat because I don't calculate that, but yeah, I know when I talk to practices on the phone, I'll say, what are your costs? You know them, and more than half of the time, practices don't know, and I'll give them some tips on how to do a break-even analysis.
Okay,
and
you say more than half of the time. Okay, I'm going to go with how old are you?
I'm 30.
Hey, I'm 54. I'm going to go with 95%.
95%.
Okay. And if they do know their numbers, they just know the macro of their office. They'll know that, well, my overhead's this, my labor's that, supply's that. Okay, I get that, but I'm talking about the cost of, you just went in there and did 2 MOD composites, and they schedule you an hour. And while you were doing that, your hygienist just did a cleaning exam and bite wings. What was her cost, and what did you net off her? What was your cost? You know that. I've never met anyone outside of corporate dentistry could do that. You take guys like Steve Thorne of Pacific. When he got his practice management system back in the day, it was a Unix system. Then he hired a bunch of programmers to program in all that stuff. So those guys have practice management softwares that the individual dentist doesn't have, and so I don't even think. And that's why I tell them that what they need the most is a practice management consultant, and what they need internally is their office manager or their front desk person has to come from bookkeeping. You can't hire an office manager because she's got 10 years experience across the street. Well, she has 10 years experience across the street of not knowing any of her numbers or her costs.
That's true.
But when I hired my first bookkeeper 25 years ago, and I said, I just want to know what this costs and what I net. It took her a year to set up systems.
It takes time.
Yeah, and a bookkeeper, by the way, if you hire a receptionist that has 10 years experience in dental, she might want, depending on the market, she might want $15, $20, $25 an hour. You hire a bookkeeper, those girls all make $10 or $12 an hour.
Yeah.
And I put a bookkeeper on Dentrix or EagleSoft, and in 30 days, her intellectual curiosity from her mindset, she's already gone to the reports, and she'll tell you, it's got 75 reports, and you've only ran 3 of them. Then that girl hiring for the job who worked across the street for 20 years, you say, oh, well, you were on Dentrix for 20 years. How many reports do they have? 10, 20, 50, 100? And she always says, I don't know. And then she blames it on someone else. She says, well, we should have had more training on that. They should have brought in a training. They should have had more. It's like, dude, you're a monkey. When you're on Facebook, you clicked all the buttons.
You clicked all the buttons and figured it out.
You signed up for Messenger, and you know how to do all this shit on Facebook. How did you look at a computer screen for 10 years and never just moved your little mouse over and clicked reports to find out what the shit's going on? And if you think that's a problem in dentistry, it's 10 times the problem in hospitals.
Oh yeah.
And then it's 1,000 times the problem in the government. In fact, what's funny is as hard as I am on my homies, the dentists, the vets, and the chiropractors, they're doing the best. They're the role models for the million MDs, the 50,000 DOs, and all the hospitals and government. I mean, dentists, as much as we ride their ass and try to make them be better and better and better, they're crushing it compared to the MD. The MD is beyond clueless, and the Department of Motor Vehicles doesn't even know this is a concept.
Well, I agree with both those. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
that's awesome.
So what else? What advice would you give to these kids though? Let's focus on So on dentistry, if you're getting confused, Podcast 421 was David Phelps. He's from
Ah.
Texas and does real estate, and he has a very successful podcast that he uploads on Dentaltown. You can find on your app. But the other one he was talking about was episode 521. Oh, they both end in 21. 421, 521.
Confusing.
Christopher Phelps, communication, marketing, and persuasion.
Yeah,
and
he's great.
Christopher Phelps, he's a great guy.
He's one of my friends, and he advises us quite a bit with our company. He's awesome.
Right on. So what advice would you give if you were going to be giving a commencement speech? They just invited you to come down to one of the two. Well, you got how many dental schools you got in Utah now?
I think we got two.
Where are they at?
University of Utah in Rosemond.
Okay, University of Utah in Rosemond.
Oh, sorry. University of Utah, which is in Salt Lake. They've got a school there. I've spoken at that. And then there's Rosemond, which I believe is in I can't remember the city. It's only like maybe half hour from.
When do their classes graduate?
I have no idea. I don't keep track of that here.
I think it's next week. And what are their class sizes about?
I don't know much about. Rosemond is fairly new here in Utah. I don't know the class sizes.
And which one does Gordon teach at?
I have no idea. I know Gordon, but I don't know which one he teaches at.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you that I've just called you to give the commencement address at the University of Utah, and the Rosemond class is going to join them.
Awesome.
So start your commencement speech to probably 225-year-old kids who just finished dental kindergarten and are about to enter the world of dentistry. What would you tell those kids?
I would tell them to understand the business model of recurring revenue. That I think is very powerful in a practice. Most practices will go in and start their career with what I call the bucket model, or the feast and famine model, where they'll do work and they don't have a system to predictably generate revenue each month. Right, and that's my favorite topic to talk about on a business standpoint is, and that's what a membership program will help practices with, is generate recurring revenue, whether it's monthly or yearly. But that's probably the biggest thing that I could tell a kid coming out of college here, of dental school, is to figure out that business model and get that recurring revenue coming in. Because in dentistry, as you know, Howard, there's feast and famine months, right? In a lot of practices, especially if you're with a lot of PPOs. The feast and famine months come, they can, you'll be busy one month, and the next month you're like, where did all the patients go? Usually around when school starts. At least that's here in Utah, right? That's what I see. So if you can generate recurring revenue, stabilize that cash flow coming in, that's probably the biggest thing that I can talk to students and people that are graduating about is generating recurring revenue.
And the recurring revenue would be buying this in-house dental membership program.
Yeah, starting a membership program, because because in my mind, the dental insurance companies have taken that model away from the industry, and having the patients pay them monthly or yearly fees to get the discounts, right? But a practice can do it. They can charge monthly or yearly and start generating those recurring revenue fees coming to their practice, and then treatment plans and everything there, everything beyond, right? That's the model that I really like in any business, when you can generate recurring revenue.
So real fast, I'm gonna tell them the 6 types of recurring revenue. Hard contracts, like your phone. When the iPhone launched in the United States, AT&T insisted that you buy a 3-year contract. Why? Because the stock value of AT&T Mobile went up and down based on that contract revenue. Auto renewal subscriptions, even better than these 2 subscription models, are the kinds of subscriptions that go on forever.
Yes.
What's that music deal that people have on their iPhone?
Spotify, iTunes Music.
Spotify, iTunes. What's the other one? There's
Pandora.
Pandora, where people signed up for Pandora in 2008 and listened to it for 90 days and don't realize they're still getting dinged $5 a month every month. And even when the monkey is driving to work and thinking, you know what, tonight I need to look that up and cancel that subscription. Well, it's out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of
So
mind.
these auto renewal subscriptions are uncrazy believable. Number three
Yes.
is sunk money subscriptions. A sunk money subscription requires initial purchase of a platform. A good example of this is the Bloomberg Terminal, a proprietary platform you have to buy in order to subscribe to Bloomberg's financial publications, which has made Michael Bloomberg a billionaire.
Yeah.
Four is straight up subscriptions. These are finite subscriptions, like for magazines that offer an optional re-up period at the end of contract. Five is sunk money consumables. This is when a customer makes an initial investment in a platform. For example, what if instead of going to Starbucks, you prefer to make your own coffee at home and purchase a $500 luxury coffee maker? Now you need to buy the accessories to make it work. The classic of that, the best one, was when every little boy back in the 80s went to college. Schick would give you all of these free razors. Because why? Because once your razor got dulled, you had to buy the refills.
Buying more. Yep.
So they gave you the free razor because they just wanted to sell you the refills forever. Then number six is the simple consumables. Are you jonesing for a grand 3-pump cinnamon dolce, say no whip, no foam, or maybe just a drip coffee? Either way, if you're a loyal Starbucks customer, you're coming back for more of the company's product. If you're a business owner, establishing reoccurring revenue isn't only good for business, ensures you'll get the maximum value when it comes time to sell. So that is, I think the number one thing in the recurring business in a dental office would be the hygiene department.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you get these people coming back every 3 to 6 months, and if their insurance always says they'll cover it every 6 months, and when they tell me that, I said, well, what I tell every man, I said, well, what if you didn't want to have any children and you wanted a vasectomy, but Blue Cross would only pay for castration? You want to get your nuts cut off because you can't pay for your own vasectomy? I tell them, if you do what the hygienist says at age 65, none of them wear dentures. But 10% of Americans do, times 2, 20% missing half their tooth. By 74, 20% of Americans have no teeth, times 2 missing half. So I say, look, if you do exactly what the hygienist tells you to do every morning and night when you get up, brush your teeth, floss, and you only see her when she tells you to see her every 3, 4, 6 months, you'll never see me again. And then I'm telling you that with my assistant, Jan, and we've been working together for 30 years, and none of us have had a cavity. So I think the biggest reoccurring would be the hygiene department, but you're trying to make them switch from PPO dentistry, where they're doing it at barely profitable, break even, or at a loss, and you're trying to switch them to membership. And you've got 300 dental offices doing this. So if 300 people have done it, it's probably doable.
Oh yeah. It's very we can replicate. We use a lot of templates that other practices are using that have been proven to be successful. It's definitely replicable. In a lot of practices across the nation and even globally, like I mentioned earlier.
You're doing all of this online training? You don't have to have boots on the dental office ground?
No, we just do all online training. We've got video tutorials, and then we do live trainings through like join.me, where we just do a screen share of our computer screens here, and we walk them through the software and train them on it.
So with your dad, we got to plug your dad, dentallabsl.com.
Yep. Dentallabsl for Salt Lake.com. They're an awesome lab, full service. I was there for I think about 7 years. My twin brother is there, so if you end up calling there, he might sound just like me. But yeah, they're a great lab. They're wonderful people and smart technicians.
So how long has your dad owned that lab?
So the lab has been around since 1906 here in Utah. So they've seen a lot of change in the industry. 1906, and then my grandpa bought it back in I think 1950. And then my dad came in.
So your grandfather bought the lab. He didn't start it.
He did not start it. No, he bought it from the original founder of the lab.
And when did the original founder start it?
1906 is when. That's the date.
1906. Your
1906.
Your grandpa started, bought it in 1950. When did your dad buy it?
My dad partnered up with my grandpa. I think back in the late 70s, 80s is when my dad started.
And how old's your dad now?
My dad is 55.
I think the lab business has seen more changes than oh my gosh. I mean,
oh my goodness, I can agree with you there.
So how is it being a dental lab today? Is any similar parallels? Let's say Glidewell was the PPO because I mean they're doing what?
Or they're corporate, yeah.
I mean they're doing five. I mean Glidewell alone's doing 5% of the crowns. How does your dad compete with the Glidewell?
Yeah, well, I don't know their changes since I've left there, but I know they do a lot of like face-to-face appointments with their dentists. They do a lot of FaceTime as well if they're out of state with meetings. And in fact, my dad the other day called me up and he's like, guess what I just did today? I helped a doctor adjust a denture, and he was like in Texas or something, and we did it all through FaceTime or Skype. So they do a lot of that. They do the CEREC Connect stuff for the CEREC doctors, and then they do a loyalty program type thing is kind of what they've been able to differentiate themselves in the industry. But yeah, that's definitely been a challenging industry. I started in that industry, I think back in 2008 in the midst of the recession. And that was a very, very hard business to run. And especially because dental labs, much like dentists, they don't know their numbers. And it took me a couple weeks to plug in all the numbers and figure out, what the heck was going on the number side of things. But yeah, that's an interesting industry.
What does your dad do? Does he still sit at the bench and make crowns? Is he waxing, or did he switch all to CAD CAM? And what does your brother do? Does your dad and your brother actually make the crowns?
Yep, they do. They do CAD CAM a lot, which has been a huge game changer for them in the industry. They used to do everything. When I was there, I would cast all the PFMs and stuff, and then about a year or two before I left, we invested into CAD CAM. And it definitely changed the lab, for good. It was awesome.
So how many employees does your dad's lab have?
They're small. They've got, I think, 6 employees.
6 employees. So are they growing?
Yeah, they're steady. I know they've got quite a bit of clients here in Utah, and then outside of Utah, sending to them on a regular basis.
So what happened in my 30 years when I got out of school? There were 15,000 labs, and half of them, 7,500, were one-man labs. Those all died.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
And now most of the growth is at about 250 or more employees is the ones growing the fastest because it's got so technology intensive.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I like talking about that business parallels because we still use just a local lab right up the street.
Very cool.
And it's nice that they come over, they can rush a case, come over and take a shade.
Yep.
It's in your backyard, all that kind of stuff like that. But man, that industry has just completely changed.
Yeah, and it was very interesting being there in that change. I remember making the transition with all the technology, and but obviously I left because I had other visions, I guess.
Well, when I was little, when you talked about there were 15,000 labs and 7,500 were one man. Most of those one-mans rented the basement under a dental office or the room next door. And like when I grew up, the reason I'm a dentist, my next door neighbor is Kenny Anderson. He's still practicing 50 years later. And he had what you would call, like, say, 6 operatories. But he had a basement, and that was his lab man. So whenever he took an impression, they just went downstairs. And he still does that. But that's what's been disappearing. And you're starting to see a resurgence of a lab person in-house if they're really lab intensive, if they're a prosthodontist, if they're doing a lot of implant, all on 4s, things like that. I've also noticed that a lot of the people that bought CEREC machines and E4Ds found out that their assistant, who's never made a crown, isn't that fast at it. And now it's faster for them and the assistant to make attempt to scan it and to make a temporary and let them go, but then have a lab person from a lab come in like every Wednesday morning, and then there might be 20 crowns files saved up there, and she'll mill them all out and knows exactly what she's doing, and she'll mill them all out at halftime. Then they get the patient back to see them. And so now there's chairside scanning. Is your dad receiving chairside scans to his lab?
Oh yeah, that's one thing that. So before I left, that's one thing I was pushing on the marketing and sales side of the lab is the digital stuff because it's a lot more accurate. As you know, sometimes dental impressions can cause issues, and we had a term we'd always say garbage in, garbage out when those impressions came in and they're garbage. The end product would be garbage.
And what
So
percent of the dentists, I always say the people most successful, they're always humble. They don't have big egos. They're
yeah.
always hungry. They got a good work ethic, willing to work hard. And then they just intellectual curiosity. They're always taking
Oh
online
yeah.
see. They're always looking. As far as the humble part, what percent of those, when you work in the lab, if a dentist sent a shitty impression, would you feel safe enough and have a solid enough relationship to call them and say, come on, dude, come on. What the hell's going on? This impression is horrible. We work with 20 people. This is the worst impression I've seen in a week. Or what percent of those dentists did you live in fear and couldn't say anything because you didn't want to lose the $5,000 a month Crown and Bridge lab?
Yeah.
And then when he sent it back because it didn't fit and says you guys screwed up, you just have to eat a humble pie and not tell him that it's because of your shitty impression. What percent would you say that was?
I would say, I mean, when I first got at the lab, my dad was scared to talk about that to pretty much every dentist. There's maybe a couple of them that he would talk about, say, hey, we need to get a better impression. But I saw the result. I'm like, look, we're eating these bad impressions, and we're eating the cost of this. That doesn't make any business sense to me. So we actually started out making educating the doctors, and I wasn't afraid to talk to the doctor and say, hey, look, the impression was bad. And we created a system to analyze the bad impressions, and then we would have conversation. We weren't jerks about it, obviously, but just had conversations about them. But initially, when I started, it was very, very low. My dad would not talk about it. My dad would just eat the cost, which doesn't make sense, to me.
It was because the dentists were egomaniacs. I mean,
that too,
next
yeah.
time you're flying on an airplane, saying, "Hey, if you were describing a lawyer, would you say they're like big egos or real humble?" It's big egos.
Big egos,
You say,
yeah.
describe a doctor, big egos. They never say humble. I mean, they never, ever say that. And when I got out of school, I called my lab and I said, I asked him, his name was Wolfgang, and he was a master from Germany, and he had this big lab. I think it's called Continental. And I said, hey, was my impression good? And it was just death silence. I said, Wolfgang, what did you think? He goes, are you serious? I said, yeah, I'm serious. He goes, well, I think you need to come down here. And so I went down there, and I loved it because he walked me through. He showed me 100 incoming pans, and it was so nice. I mean, here was this. I think at the time he must have been 65 years old, and he was showing me all these incoming cases. And I'll tell you, people who buy their implants online and from far away to save money, when you're in the field, those aren't the ones who are placing one implant a week. Anybody placing 50 implants, and you got to do something once a week to hit critical profitable mass. Just like selling this insurance plan. If you start up a dental in-house membership program, if you're not signing up someone every week, then you need more training. You need to go back to square one. It's not part of your repertoire. And everybody that's placing one a week has a human being implant rep in their backyard to help them with odds and ends, networking with other doctors, labs, whatever. And I'll tell you the advantage of a local lab is you graduates. I'm talking the commencement speech. All these kids from
nice.
Salt Lake and Roseman is that when you start up your practice, you're not smart enough to put your lab in a box and send it to another state or another country or China. You're not smart enough. You don't know what you're doing. You need a local lab, and you need to go down there and say, hey, I know my homies ain't known for their humility. These dentists get their diplomat and the alphabet soup, but they never get an award in humility, okay? And you need to go down there and say, look, I'm a 25-year-old punk-ass kid. I'm humble. I'm hungry. I want to learn. I want to do good. And when I do learn, I don't want to fly across the country and drop $3,000 a weekend and stay in some resort because I don't have any money. I'm $350,000 in student loans. And that old man who says, look, I've been doing this for 30 years. Here's what you got to do. And then he'll know also, here's how the 6 degrees of separation works. He'll call up his buddy on the phone and say, hey, I got a humble, hungry, ambitious, intellectually curious kid. Would you care if she comes down there and watches you do some Crown and Bridge? And he'll say, hell yeah.
Yeah,
Hell yeah, I don't think in fear and
absolutely.
scarcity. I think in hope, growth, and abundance. As Stephen
Totally.
Covey would
Love
always
it.
say in his 7
Love it.
Habits of Highly Effective People. Now you got an older lab man who's been doing it 20, 30, 40 years looking out after you. Now you got a mentor dentist in your hood helping you.
Mentors are always good.
And that's all free. That's just your time for being humble.
Yeah. No, mentors, you mentioned mentors, and that's something that I've always had at least two to three mentors with whatever I'm doing, whether it was clinical stuff with, at the lab, or even now, with our software company. I have mentors because I know that they've done more than I have, in whatever industry they've served in, and they can give me, advice on the experience that they've received.
So that would be your commencement speech. Last question,
Yeah.
Final question. We're at 55 minutes. That was a fast hour.
Yeah, it
some
was.
people, I don't want to throw you under a bridge, but some people listen to you and they say, I don't think that's legal. I mean, I'm in some redneck state like Alabama, Texas, or whatever, and I think you got to have an insurance license, or I don't. That might work in Utah, but that won't fly in Missouri. Is that true or false?
There are some regulations, but I wouldn't say, the membership programs are illegal. The regulations that I've seen out there, and we've pulled this directly from the database of the state legislators. They got a website and a page all about membership programs or discount plans.
Who does, your state or?
No, it's every state. I can send you the link.
No, I want you to post it on Dentaltown.
I'll post
a post under insurance. Say, Howard asked me, what are the regulations of these dental insurance members? Go under dental insurance. There's 50 categories on dental, because my homies they're driving to work right now and they shouldn't be taking notes or any of that stuff. So let's put it under insurance. So under insurance, there's claims processing, coding Q&A, Delta Dental, dental insurance for dentists, disability insurance, dental liability insurance, PPOs and HMOs, life insurance. I know what we should do.
Yeah, what should we put it under?
No, we should start a new sub-form under insurance called dental membership programs.
Oh, I would love that. I would post on that quite a bit, Howard.
What is your number? Are you giving away your number to my homies if they want to call you, or just?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Our business line is 801-753-8586.
And then the email is just Jordon, Jordon, at BoomCloudApps.com.
So we just got that. So why were you talking to Jordon Sparks with Open Dental?
We had him on our podcast doing an interview and just talking to him about Open Dental and
Jordon the dentist or Nathan his brother.
Sorry, it was Nathan. I just recognized the last name. That's what it was.
Okay, yeah. Because right when you said it, I thought, okay, I know Jordon, and he's the shyest, quietest,
really
introvert guy in the world. So when you said you had him on his podcast, I immediately said, okay, that's total bullshit. You had his brother Nathan.
Yeah, it was Nathan. I just recognized the last name. But they're a fun group to talk to.
Well, you know what? On Dentaltown, dentists care more about what their peers think than any other form of advertising or marketing or whatever. So, like on this dental membership program, what you do is start the forum, and I'll post this podcast underneath your notes. I'll start the forum. Say Howard asked what the legal ramifications are of dental memberships program. So you can push the link to that and push that out. Then when this pod comes out, I'll put it there. But I'll tell you, if you really want to grow your business, your best marketing isn't going to be something, it's not going to be buying a full page ad on Dentaltown or putting a banner ad on Dentaltown. It's going to be finding those 300 customers you got and emailing them the link and saying, man, if you could come in there and tell them what you thought. I mean, that's the best marketing, because when they hear you say, hey, BoomCloud's all that in a bag of chips. So, you own BoomCloud.
Yeah.
But, man, if your dentist up the street said, man, I signed up for this. And, again, I want to go back to that once per week. I don't find anybody doing anything profitable that they don't do once a week. So if you're only doing 2 Invisalign cases a year, stop it. If you're only placing 3 implants a year, stop it. You're not making any money. In fact, you're losing money. If you can't get to critical mass in year 1 of doing an Invisalign case once a week, signing someone up for BoomCloudApps.com membership program once a week, place the implant once a week. And that's why dentists suck in dentures, because every day
they don't do it once a
fillings
week.
and crowns. And then once a quarter, Mrs. Wimpleton comes in and wants a new denture. And every time they're like, oh my God, now what do I got to get out? And they're talking to their assistant. Okay, what do we need to get? And what lab do we use? And you just if you don't do it, and furthermore, the major takeaway from religion, hands down, is treat other people like you want to be treated.
Absolutely.
If you were going in to have a brain tumor removed, would you want somebody doing it who does it once every 3 or 4 months?
No way.
No, you'd want to find the guy in Salt Lake that only does that.
Yep.
And
exactly.
What's funny is the substitute words. Like when you say this guy's the best, you can usually substitute best with most. So, and you can also substitute best with first. Like what's the best university in America? It's Harvard. Okay.
Harvard,
Well, what was the first university in America? It was Harvard.
Yeah.
Why? Which is better, Coke or Pepsi? It's Coke. Why? Well, Coke started a couple decades before Pepsi.
Yeah.
And it's hard to beat. People still say, hand me a Kleenex. Hell, they don't even sell Kleenex. You're using a tissue.
It's a tissue.
Kleenex was first. You say, make me a Xerox copy. Dude, that's a Canon copier. You don't, so best is usually first or most. And gosh darn it, any religious leader would tell you, if you're not doing this once a week, I mean, why don't you send this person to someone who does it once a week? In fact, if it was a really serious procedure like a vasectomy, I'd want to go to someone who did it every hour, 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, so he makes sure he knows where the vas deferens is and not the nerve.
Yikes.
Well, hey, I just want to tell you, when Hogo replies to that, go to Dental Insurance, and if he's got that new forum, you'll make the first. The first. We're talking about Harvard, Xerox,
I love it.
Kleenex. Make the first post on dental memberships, and start with the regulation, because I know my homies. I know them like the back of my hand for 30 years, and I know the first barrier to entry is going to be the ones that live in fear are going to think, I don't want to go before the Texas State Board of Dental Examiners about this bullshit. And number two is, how the hell do I get my staff on board?
Yeah.
And so that's why I think we should put those webinars at the end of this podcast. I mean, it'd make it 3 hours long, but then that guy, because I know what he's going to do. The people who get it done are going to walk in their iPhone. They're going to hand it to their office manager and says, I want you to watch this video. Will this work? Is this something we can do? Because if he can't sell his office manager, his front desk, his dental assistant, the hygienist, and if he can't hold them to a measurement, or we sign up 1 people a week, or this isn't going to make sense, then he starts learning about recurring revenue models, which are genius. Yep. And by the way, really smart people miss that lesson. Like Apple is still gnashing their teeth. They look at Spotify, and what was the other one called?
Pandora.
Apple was selling you the song, and you bought it for $1, and they were making billions thinking they were all that. Then they saw these Spotify that they put all that pressure and just signing you up, and then you don't even listen to it anymore. In America, the average gym, when you sign up for a gym with the automatic recurrent revenue credit card thing, the average person goes to the gym 8 months, but takes 48 months to unhook their recurring bill. So they have to deliver a service for 8 months, and then 40 months, you're not even coming there, and they're still dinging your credit card.
It's pure profit.
Yeah, it's nothing but nut. So, Jordan, I think you're a great guy, and if you want to do your arch evil nemesis before we put this up, this will go live within a couple days. We're coming up on Memorial Day. Maybe you can do it. I don't know, whenever he wants to do it, but if you can do it Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or whatever, we'll squeeze him in sometime. Maybe we can squeeze him in Memorial Day, but maybe he's got a family in real life and has other things to do. But
my wife's out of town this week, so I have some time.
Okay, well, we'll do it back to back if he signs up quick.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead. So with the form, will you guys let me know when that's live on Dentaltown, and I'll start posting stuff there?
Well, I just texted you and him.
Oh, cool.
So,
I got the text. So let's see.
The text?
Yep. So you just took a snapshot of the topics of the forums?
Yeah, I took. So there's 50
under insurance
categories. So they start with A and go to Z. So under I is insurance, and then you open that up. There's a sub forum. So I'm asking to add it under a sub forum.
Perfect. Okay.
And there's 250,000 people on Dentaltown. That's pretty good exposure. And
I'd say so.
And then I would email that link to your 300 users and say they're going to listen to you a lot more than they're going to listen to me. By the way, last question.
Go ahead.
Where does BoomCloud come from? Where'd that name come from?
I always get this question. I wish I had a cool story, Howard. But I don't.
Well, you got a guitar sitting by you. Is it related to music?
No, it's not actually. But yeah, I love guitars and music. But BoomCloud, I think, man, I've used the name before. I've created a couple other companies just from scratch before, and they didn't turn out the way our company did now, so I just replicated the name. But I think one day I was just sitting in my kitchen table thinking of business names, and BoomCloud popped in my head. I'm like, hey, that sounds cool, and I just kept it, and that's my story there. I wish it was cool.
Well, hey, Jordon, thank you so much today for coming on the show.
Yeah.
I wish you the best of luck, and my final word is spend 5% on marketing, not lower your fee 40%, and try this dental membership program. Every day we try to find the smartest people in dentistry. The only reason this show is such a hit is because my only core competency is to be able to get little studs like you to come on the show and share what you know. And if you just would deliver that stuff, you're gonna crush it. So have a rockin' hot day.
You too, Howard.